No changes. No.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have one to approve the minutes for December 20th.
I move we approve the minutes from December 20th as presented.
Also.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. No opposed? Board reports. Anybody have anything to say?
I got one come through, is pretty good.
They get it done?
They did get done, didn't they?
What's that?
The fiber optics,
Two here?
no, to Washington the Girl.
That's part of my report.
Oh!
Oh, sorry.
I'm so excited.
No, you tell what you know, and then I'll fill in the detail.
All I really know is ADL voted for it.
Yes.
And we're so happy that we've had the chance to do that.
Now, is that what they were doing last fall up on the field side?
No, I don't think so.
No.
But anyway, that's,
I'll give all the details.
Yeah. Okay.
In my report.
Anything else? Nobody has anything? Everybody had a great Christmas?
yes.
All right. Now you can go. Financial report.
All right, you guys have your regular reports in front of you. Honestly, I didn't bring the audit documents here, and I forgot them back at the ESD, so I don't have a lot more here, but if you have any questions at all, we'll do the audit in February, I guess. And we can questions on these reports.
I didn't realize something we did.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you to bring this one. Not your fault.
Oh, I have one. Maybe this other music, do we provide anything for the 8,000? We give the 8,000.
Right, you're paid today. Right.
But do we get that, they cover everything on top of that? Yeah, I just thought that was awesome.
We pay $8,000, and they give us one full-time person for the entire school
And
year.
I was just thinking instruments and music and stuff.
He uses what we have, whatever the school districts have.
Okay.
He also has access, Ethos has a plethora of different types of instruments and things like that.
Oh,
So he has access to those, and he can bring those to,
perfect.
with him to use. Yeah.
As he mentioned a missing thumb drive, I haven't been able to see on my desk.
You're the one that has it now?
Dave Kerr had it, he gave it to me.
Okay.
Is he missing it?
Yeah.
I'll sit down. I did mention it to my friends.
I understand it's a music teacher, he's done for APL, he had a attorney said music pro started. He does a lot of the mechanics of the music. I don't think kids understand that, not to play kids.
Oh, okay.
Just read the music, how to write it.
Wow.
It's an opportunity to go to the government out there.
Yeah.
And will you be there tomorrow, or, you know?
What's that?
I'm just trying to think of how to get the thumb drive back.
Just drop it out in the office.
Yeah, I remember, it's a big email, but I was gonna send it to work, I gotta forget that, so obviously it's missing. But I know where it is, that's the thing.
Well, I can find out where your office is at.
I seem so irresponsible.
I know, but that would give me a chance to consider your work and stuff, you know, and so if I need to hunt you down later on.
Okay,
I know.
okay, fair enough,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah, so I know where you live. so-
Sounds like a
That's
pretty
right.
good story. I don't remember I got to your
Oh, well,
music instructor.
it was, he had taken it to, up to North Lake to use, he was teaching classes in North Lake. And in the last class that he taught, he left his computer. So we tried to figure out how to get it back down. She was gonna mail it, Gail was gonna mail it.
I would have been
That's
faster.
already up there.
Yeah, she was up there, and says, oh, sure, just take this down. Well, it's down to Lakeview, because that's quite, we had to cross town.
Gail should have.
Actually, I was in school today.
Shoot, I'm sorry, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, would you take it back?
Yeah.
Sarah's gonna be there next week.
You can buy it.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what's on
I
that.
go there, and I'm like,
Yeah,
it's probably all on the any questions on the expenditure summary? That was easy, just your turn.
All right, so November 22nd, we were informed that we were awarded the E-rate contract to be able to run fiber optics out to Adele and out to Plush. And so this is a $1.1 million project, and $936,000 of it is going to be paid by the federal government for the E-rate. Leaves about 160 plus thousand that the two districts have to pay for. So about $80,000 a piece, it's 80,000, something like $80,200, something like that. 82,000, excuse me. And so that payment doesn't have to begin until after the project is complete, and then they're allowing it to be made in 4 payments. So
Can the general public in some way spin off that?
let me get there.
Oh.
Yeah. John's got questions. He's right on the nose. He's right there. So both Adele and Plush school districts boards have both committed to paying $80,000. So the project's a go. The difficulty with the project, to start out with, is they gave us a 6-month time frame for it to happen. Physically impossible. It's wintertime in Lake County, and you're not going to run fiber optics in the middle of winter and have it done by June 30th. So we have filed for an extension that would provide us a year until June of 2019 to be able to accomplish the project. We did the same thing on the fiber optics going up here to Paisley, and it was approved. So I don't think it won't be approved. We just have to wait until we make sure it is approved before we move forward. Because you have to have the project done by the due date. Otherwise, they fund none of it. Yeah, they're not very forgiving. Like, not at all.
Didn't realize that they would have to go.
Yeah, well, that's why we said we need a year to do it. There's no way it can get done in 6 months, especially in the winter time. So they're going to be running this fiber. Currently, there's a T1 line. One goes out to Adele, and one goes out to Plush. Or it goes out to Adele and one to Plush. A T1 line is about 1.5 megabytes per second. A fiber optic line is 100 megabytes per second. So their bandwidth will be 100-fold, 90-fold of what it is currently. The good part, what John was asking about, is when they run a fiber optic line, they don't run just one line, they run a trunk line. And from my understanding, the trunk line is 144 fibers going out there. So when Hunter Communications bid the project, they bid the project to do the project and all that kind of stuff, but I know that in their description of how they were going to do the project, they were going to be able to use the spin-off of those other, 100 whatever odd lines to possibly be able to run a cell tower, run fiber out, or run a network out for communities, houses, those kinds of things. So the entire community will benefit from the project. And hopefully the Verizon, US Cellular, somebody will pick up the project out in Plush and build a tower. We were talking to another company, or Hunter Communications was talking to another company who all they do is they build towers and they put them in places, and then they lease their tower service to the different cell companies. And he's thinking that that's probably what will happen in Plush. Fiber will go out, this other company will come in and build a tower, and then Verizon and different cell companies will then lease that from that company, and people will be able to use it. So anyway, that's pretty exciting. A number of the board members met, myself, we met with the county commissioners this month and talked with them about the project, informed them of what was going on as a kind of a precursor to coming back to them later as the project, we make sure everything's shored up, everything's a go, we've got the extension, everything's 100%. Our intent is to go back to the commissioners and say, hey, look, this is going to benefit not just the schools, it's going to benefit the entire communities. I think the county needs to chip in a few bucks to assist with this. So we'll come back and do that. We've planted the seed with them, inform them of the project, and we'll come back. Because any dollar we can get from the county or from the state, Ken Kestner has already talked with the governor's office, and there's somebody there that's going to be working on possibly helping with the funding of that $160,000 also. So every dollar we can get back from some other area, that just puts money back into the school district's coffers, back to the kids. So that's good. I already talked about the accelerated college program. I did that in the budget meeting there. The early learning one, and I talked about the threat assessment. And this week, I am, Wednesday, I'm leaving, the meeting starts on Thursday, going over to the coast for a conference we're talking about what we'll be doing for the legislative session that's coming up in 2019. So both COSA and Oregon Association of ESDs are both working on different projects. It's kind of neat because we kind of both have the same mentality. They're all doing it on the front end, trying to have something that they'll be able to present to the legislation, saying this is what we need as educational agencies, and not just sitting back and waiting to see what crazy stuff gets dumped on the legislature. We want to be out there telling them what they need to be talking about, not waiting for them to tell us what they're talking about. So I'm going to a meeting this week on that. There's 3 main areas that the COSA is working on. The main area that I'm going to be working on is with staffing and how are we going to staff our teachers in the upcoming years. Some of the issues we have, one is just having enough licensed teachers. The other one is there's a huge push for STEM jobs. Okay, we need teachers that can teach welding or ag or these kinds of things. Colleges are not producing these people anymore. They're not out there. And so we've got to figure out a way that we can find somebody who has, I don't know, 20, 30 years of experience. I'm a welder. I've got welding certificates. I've done trainings. I'm very good at that. How do we get that person into our classrooms? What is the process? Right now, they're not a licensed teacher. We can't let they can't do it. It's even difficult to even let them volunteer just because we still have to have a licensed teacher in the room. So how do we do that? So we're going to talk about some ways that we can get these people licensed and not say, well, Clayton, that's great, you've been a welder for 20 years, I appreciate you wanting to do that. So if you take a year's worth of college courses and get your teaching degree, then you'll be able to help out in our school. And you're going to look at me cross-eyed and go, yeah, go back to the bar you were in, because it's crazy. People are not going to do that. So we've got to find a way. We've got good people. We can give them the training, the methodology to be able to work with kids and so they can understand that part of it. Because they don't need the training on how to weld and how to be safe or those kinds of things. They already have that. They've been doing it for a lifetime. So we've got to figure out a way to do that.
Is it my understanding that's how charter schools can, they do similar?
Correct. Charter schools do not have to have, they have to have a percentage of their staff licensed, but not all of their staff. So that's the advantage that they do have. Yeah. So that's going to be the one I'm working on, is trying to figure out ways that we can get our staff licensed. One of the things that has really stepped up already, they're doing it in Willamette ESD, is they have a program where they can give a one-day training to anyone who has a bachelor's degree. So if you have a bachelor's degree in anything, with a one-day training, I can get you a sub license. And it's a restricted sub license. And so what they do is they get that person restricted sub license, and then they contact a school district and they say, hey, Lakeview School District, would you be willing to have this person sub in your district? And if they say yes, then that person's license is only for that Lakeview School District. They can't go anywhere else in the state. It's restricted only for that district. And they can have multiple districts, but those districts have to agree to allow that person into their building.
Yeah, that's like the same scenario with the, like saying the welder, because one of those
No.
teacher.
Well, if they have a bachelor's degree, they can get a substitute license,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I mean.
But that would not allow them to teach the welding class on
They're
an
still
ongoing
not-
basis.
They're still going to do the
So
welder.
it'd just be for them to walk in and, help them
Can
with
they-
their PE class.
Can they be hired as a long-term sub?
I think with the restricted sub, I'm not sure what all the restrictions are. I think they can as a long-term sub, yes. But I'm not sure. I'm not going to put any money down.
Do you have enough substitutes?
I'm not sure. I think Lake County does pretty well. We've got enough retired teachers in the county that I think they're doing okay. I have not heard anybody speak up yet of having to bounce the teachers around. People take their prep periods to cover classes and stuff like that.
They did when I was on the board, it was a huge problem.
Yeah.
But I haven't been for a while.
Yeah, I didn't, it may still be, I just haven't heard it, so I don't know. But
It's tough because you can't, they have to keep their credentials up, so there's a cost and it's an ongoing problem. But isn't there a mechanism in the CTE program for teachers?
Yes. So if, for example, I've been in education my entire life, okay? So if I have experience, let's say in photography, I've been a, homegrown photographer for years, and I've done this stuff. Never done it for a business or anything, but I'm very good at it and understand how to do it. If I wanted to teach a CTE class and get kids CTE credit for that, I would have to have a CTE license. In order for me to get that, I would have to have, I believe, it's 600 hours of experience outside of education in that area. Who's going to have that? If I came in as a teacher that, say I was a photographer for the last 10 years, and I decided to become a teacher, went back to college, and got a teaching degree, I'm told I get my CTE license in a heartbeat. But I had a teacher 2 years ago with technology and video things, stuff they were doing with the kids. And she wanted to be able to give CTE, and she went back and they said, well, you have to have 600 hours, and she had to pay for classes. And basically, she had to mirror someone that was doing it, so her entire summer would have been taken up doing nothing but that, and I think multiple summers actually. It would take years for people to do that. It's brutal. So they don't make it easy at all. It's easy if you're coming from the other direction. If you're coming from the the working world into educational world, it's easy.
Right.
But if you're started in the educational world and trying to get that CTE license,
Right.
it's extremely
Because
difficult.
that's what I was thinking, our FFA teacher was a vet.
Right.
So into the CTE program was no problem.
Yep.
600.
Yep.
Like the welder could do that also, correct? These-
Right.
okay.
But what we're worried about is, playing welder, how do I get him into my classroom? Who's, because a lot of times I'm assuming they're probably going to be towards, on the end of their career, or maybe I retired from welding, but
Right.
but I'm happy to work with kids, I love working with kids. So the concept of them going back to college for a year, or having to take, take that and stuff, it's not reasonable. We've got to figure out another way, another path.
So is it a bachelor's degree plus a year or just a year?
Well, a bachelor's degree will get you into the teaching program,
Right.
but then it typically is another year because you get a master's in teaching.
But what about if you've never been to college?
Then you have to have a bachelor's.
Yeah. So that's a long time.
Yeah, and you could have somebody who's, say, from welders, who maybe went to community college, became a welder, and has got 25 years of being a welder, And I know welders, like anything else, they have classes, they have certifications, and those
Sure.
kinds of things, which is as good as any college course.
Yeah, doesn't it take 4 years to become an electrician? I mean,
It takes at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They don't give it, they don't give it away.
Yes, and take classes.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So good luck on that.
Yeah, so that's one of the ones I'm gonna be, that's the one I'm gonna be working on. I'm pretty excited about it. I think hopefully we can find some innovative ways of getting people some licenses.
I think it's something, I mean, it's kind of on the topic. A few years ago, they were talking about the schools would let the kids go off the campus and have like a work program and get grades from, like they work with clay.
Right. That's still an option.
That's
They call it work study.
Yeah, we're studying for that.
I know some kids
It's still
work
an
at Les Schwab.
Yeah,
Which is actually kind of a crack up, because somebody can come with me and I can teach them how to work there and well, and give them a grade that you can't go to school.
Right.
It's not good, so it's kind of like, really?
yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That's why I'm working on the committee. I'm like, we gotta fix
When I was in
this.
high school, I had teachers, he was a mechanic at the local tractor dealership. He'd come down to school for 2 hours a day and talk about his classes, but mechanic and small engine.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of what needs to be looked at, and this whole, if you're gonna go talk to the city, you have to enhance the atmosphere of schools in Oregon to attract those kids. If the colleges aren't producing it, it's because those students aren't going there to get their education to be a teacher.
Right.
And it's because we don't have a secure funding source. Who in the world signs up to not know what you're gonna be doing every 2 years
Right.
with the student?
So what was it about, was it 6 years ago, 8 years ago? Where Portland Public, they laid off 400 or 500 teachers, Salem Kaiser, they let off like 300. I mean, there was teachers being laid off left and right. Makes you real proud of your college degree, when you know. Yeah, that was the beginning of the demise, the downfall of education in Oregon, because we couldn't fund to hold on to our teachers. And so all the kids in college were discouraged and said, I'm going something, I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah.
Well, also, that was the first time, in my knowledge, that ODD had said, okay, for planning purposes next year, you guys are gonna get this much money. And that's what everybody budgeted for. And then midway through the year, they come back and say, sorry, folks, you ain't getting that much. Now, Hillsborough, in the Oregonian superintendent, before it hit the fan, had said, you don't need a reserve fund. You know exactly how much you're going to be getting. And he said that to the Oregonian. And Hillsborough became the poster child nationwide for a school district that had to cut days.
Good days, yeah.
That, you know, ODE or the state government, whatever, just lost all credibility. It was terrible.
So that's an ongoing battle. We're gonna, keep fighting. This year, my understanding is the concept or the statement that we're going to be using is we're going to try to stay away from you need to give us better funding, you need to give us increased funding. The term of funding, money, we're going to take out of our conversation. We're going to tell them this is what we need for programs in the state of Oregon. This is what we need to be able to do with our kids in this state. Now, make it happen. And let them be the ones to say, well, wow, yeah, you're right. Because we think we can make the argument that this program is important, or this number of kids in classrooms is important, or whatever it is we're talking about is important. We can get them to agree to that, and then it's their responsibility to figure out how to fund it. Take a different avenue. Because all they hear is more money, more money, and they don't listen to us.
And that's all you hear, everybody wants a dollar.
Yeah, everybody's barking the same thing. It's not the health district, it's the schools, it's not the schools, it's it's everybody. Well, it's just, you guys are the same funny thing we are. We're all waiting for the state to see what we're gonna get. So we're gonna have a job.
Teacher deal, if you could get something push through to reality, you can save dollars on. You can put dollars from here over there if you can have someone come in and do these things. So, volunteer on this stuff.
Skilled crafts people, I mean, they're just not around.
Yeah.
And
And that's huge. I mean, they, 20 years ago, they started cutting back. You started losing your music teachers, you started losing your ag teachers, your wood shop, your electronics, your small engines. And all those CTE classes were all cut back. And now in the last, 3 to 5 years, all of a sudden somebody started waking up going, oh, gee, maybe these are important. Maybe we could keep kids in school if they could do something that wasn't,
Lakeview was.
Yeah, like our school, it's a pain, well, now there's whatever the extension of hours was, so that, there's no late start for the seniors like they used to. So now you have kids that, I know one in particular, she shows up late every day because she doesn't want to be there. So she's late every day, and it's a big joke of what you do now, And she has nothing to do, there's no electives.
right.
She can take ag, wood shop, there's
Probably there's a global studies or something that she has to take as a senior.
yeah, but the rest of the day, she really, the first 3 hours of the school, she's done.
There's legislative, that was just passed this last year that talks about, requiring students to have, full classes, full loads. And we're fighting that one. We're just going, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
We've got seniors that all they need is 3 classes and then let the kid go to work study. So we're trying to figure out how to deal with that one. But that's, it's frustrating. So anyway, so that's where we're at with that. And then the last thing on my report is, you've heard us talk, Sarah and Debbie both have talked about our frustrations with RICO and our photocopiers and being down and everything else. And right now, we've got them to admit that they were in breach of contract with the larger machine because it did not function for over 30 days and they did not repair it. And so we got them to admit to that. And so they were in breach of contract. We're fighting with them right now because now they're saying, well, yeah, we admit to that, but the other machine hasn't had any performance issues, so you're still responsible for paying for that machine. And I'm saying, no, we have one contract, you're in breach of contract. You don't get to create 2 contracts out of one because you want us to keep paying for this one and you agree to this one. So we gave them a 30 days notice. That went in January 19th. On January 19th, he again admitted to the breach of contract for one machine. They said they would be out to pick it up in the next 15 days. And they said we could buy out the second machine. So Sarah emailed them back and asked, what is the buyout of the second machine? And I emailed them back and I said, I disagree with your interpretation of the contract. I even contacted the OSBA lawyer, and she said, no, send him an email like this. So I kind of used her words, and I sent him an email and said, I disagree with your interpretation of the contract. You've admitted to being in breach of this contract. Therefore, we are no longer going to be paying on this contract. And what was the last, I don't know, yeah, and please remove the machines, as soon as possible. So we'll see how he responds to that. So it's just,
That was your blood pressure.
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just, it's absolutely, this guy's playing a game, and I'm trying to not get the bad bit back to him. But I'm following what the lawyers tell us to do, so.
We have another copier?
We have another copier, and we've already entered into an agreement with Canon. Debbie was working on that today, getting an agreement with Canon to go with their machines. And we'll probably have their machines in the building before Rico or gets rid of theirs. I don't know. We'll probably put a flower pot on it. Just to make it different side. So anyway, so we're working on that. It's it's going to happen, it's just, you know, he's trying to play a game and stuff, so, we'll figure it out. But, worst case scenario, if we end up having to buy it out of the contract, the amount that we estimate, they had given us a refund of $1,700 from, just because the machine didn't work, we said, look, we haven't used it, you can't charge us for this. So they refunded us back $1,700, and the remaining part of the buyout, what we estimate, Ken said, we will cover that. If you end up having to buy that machine out, we'll cover that cost.
Wow.
So we may end up not, ESD's not going to be responsible for paying anything out.
Where did this come from?
Oh, where's he at? Rico is,
I was just thinking, fix something in 30 days. What's that?
They were trying to fix it, but it's been multiple visits, multiple parts, multiple downtime over, it started in July.
yeah, Debbie's got documentation of the whole thing, it's like 4 pages. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like 3 or 4 pages, it's, just another.
Doesn't say much for
What's that wire printers used?
They don't
wire.
They don't wire duct tape.
Duct tape, yeah, hold anything together.
Anyway, so that's my report.
Yeah, really.
Oh,
There you go.
It's another,
That's
And it's
90,
good, he knows it.
that's 90 mile an hour tape, that's not 60 miles an hour.
This is information discussion items.
Just the local service plan, if you guys have any more thoughts or questions on that, I wouldn't put on thing there. Second reading of policies. You know,
That's
we're
just,
still good performing on that.
You're being serious about this.
Yeah,
you see that, as soon as I said policy,
I'm sorry. I had some major conflicts today, and this is, I didn't know which one I was going to be at. Let's see.
I guess he's changed his mind.
well, thank you for coming to the good part.
Yeah. And I agree with whatever you guys say. Thank you. We were worried about that.
I guess I just been, I was myself, I remember that.
I wonder, did we miss the word basis on the first one? GCDA on the back, that the service of a volunteer with direct and supervised access to students will not begin on a probationary basis before the return, or probationary before the return?
basis.
I'm not sure what we
You
need.
want basis removed?
No, added to the second
Yeah,
sentence, right before the four.
Oh, okay, yeah. There was a lot of cutting in.
Oh, I would imagine, yes, these were.
Just add that on the second sentence.
Yeah, or I mean, we could change the sentence, but that'd be the easiest way I can.
I know.
I wasn't thinking of it. I was thinking of my day job. I thought, God, somebody on probation can work for the ESD.
Different probation.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was hard to find.
Yeah, no kidding.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Wow, that's so.
All right, so this is second reading, so if somebody wants to read through them, or if anybody's got any chicken scratches or any changes.
I have no problem with any, because we kind of cussed and discussed all these.
We did at the last meeting, yes.
So on the AR, number 1 under processing, should we have those parentheses? Let's see. Shall complete the appropriate forms or requirements as approved by ODE. Oh, I see.
It's
it's
letting
just
the
telling
letting the
us
person
that's where
know
it
that the information, we have the information for it.
I just didn't read that. John and I were talking, we were surprised at how much information that you could release in the directory. I didn't know you could give all that out.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at the directory information, it's interesting that how much of that stuff we actually do give out, and we don't even realize it. Like when we post class lists on the Windows schools, you know, the
Right.
Windows class, there's all the names of all the kids, all the grade levels. Okay, when you, sports rosters,
Right?
not only do I put your name, and I put how much you weigh, how tall you are.
I'm like,
You know,
Here
I
in
mean,
school.
it's kind of amazing how much information you give out. So if there's no questions on those first read, or second readings, we can move on to the first, if we want to, or if we want.
Jack, on the first one, use of restraint seclusion. The paragraph after number 6.
Well, are you in the first readings?
Yes.
Okay, let me say.
Paragraph after number 6. The use of physical restraint and/or seclusion is only permitted as a part of a behavioral support plan when other less restrictive interventions would not be effective and the student's behavior poses a threat. I think it should be when interventions are not effective and/or the student's behavior is a threat. Otherwise, it's like
Yeah.
the use of force, if the kid just blows it and loses his mind, has to be part of a behavioral support plan, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, no. The reason being is if it has to pose a physical threat. Because if I have a student blow up in my classroom, okay, he's angry, and he's taking everything off of my teacher desk, and he's throwing it on the floor, and he's breaking it, and he's stomping on top of it, I cannot use physical restraint to stop that child. Because he's not a threat. I can do a room clear, I can take every other kid out of the classroom, and so he's the only one left, me and the kid, or whoever the kid.
I could have to.
Well, you're going to do what you need to do.
Right.
If an emergency arises, but if the student blows up and gets violent on a regular basis, I would assume that whatever restraint you're going to use probably would be part of the plan.
Not necessarily. Typically, physical restraints are not part of a plan.
Just
Sure.
holding them down.
Yeah, the only time you can hold them down is if they are an imminent threat, physical threat, to either themselves or others.
And who makes
So-
that determination?
Huh?
Who makes that determination?
You just,
So they're throwing.
whoever's doing the,
Yeah.
you have to be trained
It's like you're
to do,
restrained.
yeah, whoever's trained, you have to be trained, but yeah, you can't do or.
Oh, and this is saying, this is just describing what can be part of that plan.
Yeah, but you're going to do whatever you need. But here, it's got to be part of a behavioral plan. That's what got me. I mean, you can't foresee what you're going to do.
I think you're
In
talking
some
about
cases.
two different things. This is talking about using physical
Okay,
restraint or
good.
seclusion in the plan before the blow up. You're saying, you're talking about a blow up that might not have a plan yet, correct?
Or something happens that you did not
Right.
Right.
foresee this whole
Right.
situation coming.
That must be accounted for somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's making a statement that says you can't use physical restraint as part of the behavior plan if you haven't exhausted all other ways of dealing with this child prior to doing that. And so typically, you don't even put restraints in a behavior plan.
Yeah.
Because the only time you're going to use that restraint is if they're in imminent physical harm. And that's a different determination. I don't do that because I think that's part of the plan. I'm doing that because This kid's in imminent danger. He's broken up a piece of glass and he could get cut. He's biting another child under restraint. And so typically, restraints are not part of a plan. I have never seen them be part of a plan.
The next paragraph says, except in the case of emergency,
Okay.
and it says there you can do that, you can use it to keep them from hurting. As
Okay.
necessary when the student's behavior imposes a reasonable threat.
Okay, I'll stand corrected.
No, it's good to understand, yeah.
Yeah, because this would be one that could go sideways in 2 seconds.
Oh, and yeah,
This would be one,
yeah, I'm sure this has been scrutinized
yeah.
by lawyers way before we got it. Yeah.
That's easy one to delete.
And now prescription medication, we delete those.
On the back of that first one,
Yeah.
in the gray, that is the statement. We want that statement in, because as we get farther down, there are 2 ARs in KL, public complaint and procedure, and the appeal to the deputy superintendent. So, do you want to keep that statement in that's on the back of that policy? This appeal process is identified in administrative regulation KL AR2. You're going to want to appeal to the superintendent of public instruction, so.
I think it would be best just to use our regular complaint procedure.
So this may be one that we don't want to.
Right.
So take that. It's one of the very last ones here.
So cross out the gray,
That's correct. Okay.
would be my suggestion to the board. And you're saying that
So probably AL2, which is the very last one.
the last one, okay,
We'll probably just delete that.
okay.
Not use it. Okay, so.
The JHFEAR is pretty much boilerplate. This one helps give us a little more, just take us out of the limelight or out of the firing line, because we're not able to notify parents and things unless we're given direction to be able to do so. And what this says is it actually says Sheriff Smith, am directing me not to notify any person, including the parent, guardian, or, so it's just putting it in writing that the law says you're not, so that if a parent comes in and complains, I've got this that says, look, the sheriff told me I couldn't do it, so I've got it in writing, don't be mad at me, that's the law. And I hope we never have to do this at ESD, but at least we've got it if we need to. Is everybody comfortable with the directory information?
Well, I'm looking down here at the bottom, it says, consider deleting 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 10, 11. Oh, man. I personally would, I don't think that we should be providing this stuff, but
We really typically don't.
Yeah.
We don't have.
The student address,
Going to apply to this.
right. If anybody came to me and said, can we have Johnny's phone number and address, I would say, you can go to school. I'm not thinking, we don't typically would have that. We would give them. One that I would like the board to cross out, and again, not that we would ever use this, is the student's electronic address. I don't know, it just scares me. We hand out that, to Joe Weirdo and he emails a kid and all of a sudden now you've got a predator on your hands and they would give that as director information. I don't feel comfortable we should give that out.
Well, that one, date, place of birth. I mean, that, school, most recent previous school. And these are things that really,
Students.
I would do this and then follow all of the above on the bottom, yellow,
yeah,
and then have about 3 or 4.
just the very bare bones. But that's my,
Yeah,
You're just asking.
yeah.
12, 13.
10.
I'm not sure why we would be releasing information on a student anyway, unless
We
we
would,
were tutoring somebody that was in, say, expelled or something.
and that's there, those are school district employees that do that to them. They just use our facility.
Yeah.
This is for information for school students or just school, public school students?
I think this is public school because
For-
our school is full with 6.
Because that whole different list of schools they have.
I know, right?
So Clayton suggested that we go ahead and mark off all the ones from the grid, we'll find you, print it down there, go ahead and mark those off.
And 13, yeah, their name, the sports.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, 9, waiting times. We're not going to be concerned with that.
No.
Yeah, I personally,
Really, basically, all it leaves is the student's name.
Well, everything else there, maybe I'm thinking about that wrong, but I think of
oh,
the creeper
yeah.
that knew somebody
Worst case
had a
scenario.
kid a couple years ago, and I'm gonna try and find his mom, and if I call the school and get some records,
Right, where
and I
the
get their address, maybe I get this and I can
How
get
long
a kid
did
to say
they-
something on an email, and I'm thinking, yeah, this seems like a stalker's dream.
Yeah.
If you know they have a kid or something.
Now, if we're not required by law, I would love to.
I agree.
Okay. Do it. Hmm? Yeah, you didn't put your requirements.
Holy cow. You guys can just find,
Oh, there
I
it
do,
is.
it is required.
Updated language.
It is required.
Okay, public records. I'm comfortable with the sentence under second paragraph under 3. Request to inspect receive copies of the presented, I just say presented to the office.
Oh, sure.
I don't think it has to be sent to ESD, it's probably going to go to Debbie, and she's going to know as well as I will.
You can get requests for public records. Order on the rest.
Oh, yeah.
And, they will want to know every purchase that you made, including staples and so forth.
Yeah.
In which you may want to have a policy where something says, if you want that kind of information, we probably can get it for you, but it's going to cost you. And give them an hourly rate. The cemetery district charges $30 an hour. And that stopped. Because people are getting some harebrained requests that really amounted to purely harassment. And they said, sure, we'll get it for you.
When did they harass the cemetery?
That it's going to cost you. Because it takes a secretary's time. And I don't know if anybody's got a bridge against the ESD, I assume no.
It's just something.
Could happen.
Yeah.
Could have FOIA request.
Yeah.
When we passed it at a board meeting, like
Oh,
2 weeks after we got the request for those records.
Who had a beef with the cemetery? I mean, why would somebody have a beef with the cemetery?
we do do certain things. For example, we've got a motor on the headstones. If you start piling up concrete around the headstone, you can't go. It'll require a hand trimmer. Fencing around the grave requires trimmer. Things like that.
Yeah, which
Borders
is not
around the
really-
grave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Silly
sense.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's a quick question, and back on the public records and on the directory. That's because of the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. ESD shall not, in accordance with state law, disclose personal information for the purpose of enforcement of federal. That's an Oregon state law,
Yes.
not federal law.
But if federal government cracks down, then you're caught in crossfire.
Yep.
But if you want your money, you do what the state does. That's right. That's all right.
The good thing is we don't have direct students in our supervision, so we're not going to be, they're not.
And that's all. But
Well, yeah, so, and that's why I couldn't figure out what
so which one will be up there?
KLAR, public complaint. Are we there?
This is part of the-
Yes. You're okay.
Yeah, on the KDA on the AR. I had that one question, upon receipt of a written request, that the ESD shall respond within 5 business days, acknowledging receipt that's line 2. Is, there a law in 5 days? Because I was thinking if the office was slamming, you had to do things, 5 days would be
That's just acknowledging it, I got your request.
Oh,
I'm not going to have it to you.
oh, okay.
30 days.
I was looking at
It
it.
has to be a reasonable amount of time, and they don't define reasonable. So in 5 days, I have to say, yes, I got your request for those records. I'll have to do you a reasonable amount
I was
of time.
there for the Forest Service, and that was 6 months.
Yeah.
That,
I
it's,
needed to know who was working on this date, at this time, in this office, on this hillside. Yeah, it was 6 months.
it says down here there's an ORS. It tells us why we have to do it.
It's pretty new, actually,
Okay.
as far as those 5 days is pretty.
Shoot, too late for your Forest Service thing, huh?
No, I
They're probably exempt.
It was-
It's federal.
They didn't do it, they didn't do it, and I still like the roads, because I didn't do it myself. But I'm doing contract now.
Is there anything we have to choose between in this next one?
On the AR, on the public complaint AR, my suggestion would be that any complaint, if it's going to be as formal as a written complaint procedure, that it go to the administration. I wouldn't want, I guess, if we had an employee that had somebody that they were supervising, I wouldn't want a complaint procedure to go to that employee and not come directly with me. If it's enough to where they're going to fill out a formal complaint, it needs to come to the administration,
That's, yeah.
rather than a supervisor. That'd be my preference.
Do we have a way to document, so step 1, wishes to express a concern should discuss the matter with the school employee involved. The employee shall respond within 5 working days. That can be verbal concerns, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's when you go in and you talk to the teacher you're reading Huck Finn class, I don't approve of that, and you have that opposite. And the teacher may say, well, you know what, let me look into that because I'm not sure what the ruling is on that. That's what the 5 days you can maybe find out, well, how do I handle this? Do I let the kid not read the book?
So can be proven.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, usually what response is not written, it's just, say something back,
Are you good with the number at least?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the 10 days there, 5 days instead of 2.
So at number 2, you just want to put administrator for all of that.
Correct, yes. Step 3 also, administrator, and then also the 10 days.
So then, on step 4, we can do our designee.
Yeah, you would take out designee because there would be a designee. In the next paragraph, step, or the same paragraph, step 4, I think using the word may or will would be appropriate. We still have it there, but we don't see have to.
We did that grade statement, which is not really complaints, decisions.
Yeah, the next, the back page which says commissioner supervisor. 10 days is fine, 20 days, the next paragraph is fine. Actually, there's a couple of weeks on this, it's fine.
I didn't highlight this, but in second to the last paragraph, second sentence, the ESD council, or actually it's the first sentence, ESD council will report last year. Very important.
Yeah, we don't have an ESD council,
So,
so that was the board vice chair, if it's against the board chair,
Oh, right.
we just put the question. Since we, the next page, since we took out that appeal to the public, superintendent of public instruction, we just not use that anymore.
Oh,
So the KLAR 2, we would just leave that out. Not use it.
right.
this is the last batch. They may not be. But that was the last of this group of 30.
Well, that's last meeting. We have budget resolution.
This resolution is sort of a technicality, and so that my budget and my books can match what the youth mentor program, where they have revised their budget to be based on actual funds received. They're reporting to grantors, they're asking me for different financial information, and which includes budget, year to date, and I don't feel great about changing the budget column since officially our budget is different, but it doesn't look great for them to report a different budget than what they've been reporting to grantors. So this is my request for us to make the budgets the same between the youth mentor program Excel spreadsheet and my accounting software. at all.
Is this a one-time thing, or do you think they'll be ongoing
For the year or for future years?
for the year?
For this year, it should be one-time adjustment.
What's happening is they're spending money in different places and budgets, so.
No, they received less grant funds than they applied for. And in April, when we were making my budget, it's easier to appropriate too much.
They're hoping,
Yeah.
and didn't get it, and now they need to fix.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So overall, it's a decrease of 58.6.
yeah.
Just, okay.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah, your action items.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Here we are then.
We can make some changes.
No, I guess we'll start with, we're already there, so we'll do the budget resolution.
Good here.
That's, I don't know where that's at.
Underneath the white sheet. What about for you?
I knew that.
I knew you did. You tested me. But I was on top of
Yeah, maybe it is.
it. I was ready to support you.
Oh, it is.
Now, you wanted to skip to 4.2 and then do the budget resolution.
I move we approve the budget resolution 1718-04.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we need to approve board policy
Second reading call.
on the second.
I'll make a motion that we second reading policies.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's it.
Job. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
Thank you. This is important. We do it once a month, but it's important.